On this episode of One-on-One, now it's getting close to my age, so we have a lot to talk about. My guest is going to be Kirk Schexnayder, and a lot of you know Kirk from the area, but you may have forgot how good an athlete he was. He was a pretty doggone good athlete, so when we come back from the break, we're going to talk with Kirk Schexnayder. He was, during that transition from Terrebonne to HL Bourgeois, and I have a lot of memories watching him play against my brother's teams. He also played against a lot of talent. They had a lot of talent on their team. When we come back, he'll be my guest on One-on-One. One-on-One is brought to you by the Law Office of Waits and Downer. And welcome back to this episode of One-on-One. I'm Martin False, and joining me now, as promised, Kirk Schexnayder. Kirk, good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
I could start anywhere, but we've had so many conversations over the years, played so much basketball in gyms together over the years. I'm sure if we got Ted Bergeron or Ed Dago, or we could go down the line, everybody would have a Kirk Schexnayder story. I'll start off with a story. There wasn't enough basketballs in the gym for Kirk, me, or Ed Dago, because whoever got the ball was shooting the ball.
Absolutely.
But I want to go back. You were bringing me down memory lane, and of course, I'm looking at some of these handbooks that will put out. Kirk's kneeling down with his knee cocked out to the west over there. Everybody had to pose during these shots. But you grew up in an era where athletics was big. I mean, you played against a lot of great athletes. You were a great athlete. But before I get to that, I want to go way back to who you became and why you became that. What's the earliest years you remember?
I was very blessed having a good family. My mother and my father, great people. And then I had 3 siblings, 2 older brothers and a sister. And we just always had fun around the house. And we always played some kind of sport outside. Didn't matter what. If they had a ball involved, we were there.
Your family was all pretty much athletic, and just so we could be transparent, Bishop Maurice Schexnayder is a relative of yours.
Yes, my grandfather's brother, actually.
Okay, so I know we talked about that quite a bit, 6 degrees of separation. Take me through your schooling. Where did you first start school, and sort of bring me through that process?
Well, we started out at Broadmoor Elementary. We grew up right there in front of Oakshire, and we went, actually, just goes to show you local community how it grows and expands, because we went to Broadmoor from 1st through 5th grade. Then I went to Evergreen in the 6th grade, back to Broadmoor in the 5th grade at Evergreen, back to Broadmoor in the 6th grade, then Evergreen 7th, 8th, and 9th, and then to Terrebonne Building B in the 10th, Building A in the 11th, and HL Bourgeois my senior year.
Wow. So you got a lot of diversity in your schooling, right?
Yes.
There's a lot that's made about going to private schools or public schools, but I got to say, I was blessed to go to a private school, but I know a lot of people in the public school sector that became very diverse because you had to learn how to get along with everybody and do so that there's pluses to everything.
Absolutely.
That I'm sure your friend base became very big because of that.
I rarely ever missed school. You know, having a sick day to stay home, I didn't want that. I wanted to be at school with my friends and doing what you do at school.
And if you had a sick day, you couldn't play sports.
No, you couldn't. And I'm sure my dad would find something for me to do around the house.
I remember your dad from later years and all, and didn't know your mama well, but where did you get that discipline that it takes to be in team sports and all? Where'd they come from? Mostly your dad or your mom?
Well, my mother played basketball through high school, and she wasn't the tallest, but she had a sister that was 6 foot tall. And then my dad loved sports. He always did, and he always made time for us. And again, I had two older brothers that were actually very athletic. Even my sister liked sports, but we always were playing in the yard doing family things.
Yeah. When did you know, going through all that schooling, that you were a pretty good athlete? Did it start hitting you at a young age, or when did it hit you?
I don't know. You always tried your best. And again, my role models were my two older brothers. I mean, they were very much into sports, and they let me tag along with them a lot. And then you see how much that they did, and you just kind of wanted to do that or be a little bit better.
I know Steve better. Did he toughen you up? Because he was a pretty tough guy.
Well, they all toughen you up.
Yeah.
Even my sister, she could beat me up back in the day. But no, we were very competitive, and I think that's what brings out hard work and wanting to win. I mean, we didn't like losing.
My first recollection, really, of you, because you're a little older than me, but my first recollection would be I'm watching you play Vanderbilt. Bourgeois had just started, team, Coach Schwab's coaching. Greg Bergeron, your quarterback. You went to Bourgeois your senior year. You playing my brother's team at Vanderbilt. That was a fledgling program at Bourgeois. But y'all were able to pull some pretty good athletes.
For the seniors, we had a choice to go to Terrebonne or to HL. And Greg was an unknown. I didn't know Greg was going to be the quarterback. And of course, I knew who Greg was.
Weren't you quarterbacking?
I was.
Okay.
Actually, I started that game out as the quarterback.
Okay.
But then we made a little shift. We had some very unique coaches. They were young and aggressive, and they saw opportunities. So in that particular game, I moved out to wide receiver. And then on the opposite side of the field, they put somebody head up on me. So then they moved me to tailback, and I ended up going to fullback, and then I ended up playing tight end. So in that game where Greg came in, I think I caught 6 or 7 passes in that game as a starting quarterback.
For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits and Downer Law Firm.
How was it playing for a guy like Schwab? You've had a lot of coaches, and we'll maybe talk about some of them, but pretty much a hard-nosed kind of your old type of coaches. Just get on the field, work, and make sure you do your job.
Well, he was in a way. He definitely had discipline, but a great guy. Very inspirational to me because I knew of his accomplishments at LSU, going there as a kid, watching him play. But then very professional. When he took control of that team, his coaches, respected him, and kids definitely respected him. So it was fun playing for Don Schwab.
But you were supposed to be a Terrebonne.
Well, there's a story there as well, because Ted Bergeron, my good friend, was a senior quarterback when I was a junior. Well, he left. And we didn't really have a backup quarterback coming up. So I'm like, what good is a wide receiver without a quarterback?
Right.
So,
and Ted was a heck of a quarterback.
He was. He was very, very good. It just so happened we had a very good running back as well. Ricky Lovell was all district, leading a rusher in the district. And why would you throw when you can run in those days?
So all these things were going through your mind as you were making that transition?
No, not really, because I was 16, 17 years old when I had to make a decision.
Looking back, though.
Yes. I remember the first time I sat down with Don Schwab, I just told him, I said, I played basketball, and for some reason or another, football, then basketball, and baseball. And I love baseball. But I never got to play baseball at Terrebonne High. And I mentioned that to him. He said, you want to play baseball? We can let you play baseball.
But you did track, too.
Yes. I was very fortunate. Those coaches were just all unique because they weren't worried about individually so much as they were about the athlete. I could actually play 4 innings of baseball and then go to a track meet.
Right.
And you probably did the same thing. So, they worked real hard to make sure if that's what you want to do, we'll do it.
Yeah, but thank God my year we didn't have a track meet the same day we had a baseball game.
We had a couple of those.
So a few people did.
Yes.
And you were lucky because some coaches would not always allow that.
Right.
They wanted their sport to be the one you went to.
I agree, 100%. Most people want to, if you're their head coach of a certain sport, they want all their players to be nothing but baseball players or basketball players.
So you started progressing, and you started, example, we'll pull out a letter here that was from none other than Ken Berthelot. A lot of people knew Ken Berthelot from sports. Coach Gano knew him from the Dale Carnegie courses and all. He did an interview with you. Well, you heard Kirk Schexnayder's name mentioned a few times here. I think the fans of all sports should sit back and take notice of the accomplishments of this one young man and what an outstanding job he has done at H.L. Bourgeois. This senior gave up his senior year at an established high school, Terrebonne, with an established athletic program to move to Bourgeois, a risky move, and one which not all athletes chose to make. But Kirk Schexnayder did, knowing that there would be no championships for the Braves in year number one. Yet, he wanted to be there and give all he could to help. That, plus his accomplishments on the field and the awards won, mentioned already, make Kirk Schexnayder a winner. You did win, let's see, you played basketball under Coach Gray Falls.
Yes, great
That was
guy.
an experience.
Absolutely. I wish I could be in that kind of shape again.
And he was unique too, wasn't he?
Very much so.
All your coaches had really different personalities.
I don't know if Don was totally responsible for hiring them all, but he made excellent choices.
Yeah, no doubt. Buzzy Sullivan was your track coach.
And also coached me at Evergreen.
Did he? Such a great guy.
He was.
And Steve Dewey, baseball coach.
Super guy. Yeah.
And then, of course, Don Schwab in football. He talked about some of the awards. What were some of the awards? I'm going to let you brag a little bit, but I'm making you brag a little bit. What were some of them that you won your senior year?
We had a very young team. A lot of our team was juniors and sophomores. But I think I was the offensive player of the year in football, and then also in track as well. So that was a couple of awards.
For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits and Downer Law Firm.
You were in a game, and I think you told me you and Ted were talking about this recently, that on the field you had Melvin Johnson, Ricky Britt. Who else was on that field at the same time?
Oh, you had Robert Lagarde. You had Harris Loop. I mean, there was a bunch of people, Curtis Pellegrin. Again, we looked at the roster that they had and the roster that we had, and we counted over 20 people that were offered college scholarships on the field that night, Terrebonne versus South Terrebonne in 1973.
Well, that's a track meet.
Yeah, well, they had a track meet because those guys were fast. George Washington, those guys were extremely
But what was
fast.
it like? I've heard all the stories. I've mentioned Melvin Johnson's name so many times, Robert Lagarde, Ricky Britt, Herman Verdon, all these guys that I think they were 1/10 off in national record in high school in the 440-yard relay at the time. What was it like on a football field watching that kind of speed?
We didn't watch too many game films back then. Like later on, I learned, playing college ball, where you really knew your opponents. I mean, we knew about them and we knew how good they were. And that game that we played that night at Terrebonne Stadium, that was for to see who goes into the playoffs. They had a good team, we had a good team, and the stands were full. I don't know if they've ever accomplished that again, but both sides were really full, and we had about 8 layers deep around the whole track of people watching that game. So again, I was a young kid. I didn't know or do much thinking about all that. I had to worry about what we were going to do.
Yeah. Who won the game?
Actually, they did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it close?
It was nothing at halftime, and
Really?
then they came up and they had Melvin Johnson.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, just fed him the ball, huh? Well, but just
But we had a good defense. We had some great players as well.
yeah. But y'all had a gritty type of team. Just that a bunch of guys that just go out there and want to hit the snot out of you. And of course, y'all had good skill people, so that made it interesting. But I remember you from flag football. We played flag football. I heard about the legendary Kirk Schexnayder and Ted Bergeron, and there was a marriage of different age groups, but we all played flag football together. And I guess I would use the word not only athletic, but you were pretty limber. You had some good speed, but agile would be a good word. So did that come natural to you?
I reckon so, because I didn't really do a whole lot to develop that. I didn't work out with a lot of weights and stuff back in high school, where I started in college. But and that's actually a good thing, because I got hit a lot, and if I would have resisted the hit with strength, I would have probably had some more injuries.
You're
I
like
went with the
rubber,
hit.
huh?
Yeah,
Like a rubber
that's
band
right.
man. Yeah.
I was long and lean, and when they hit me, I just kind of went with the hit.
But I remember seeing you when I was a younger track guy. They would have the JV meets and the freshman meets along with the varsity. So I got to watch guys like Vaughn O'Quinn, Kirk Schexnayder, and different people in the different events. But you were just trying to get every athletic event you could get in, but you looked like you were enjoying it. That's what I remember about that, just having fun. Mm-hmm. But you also had a very competitive side.
Yes.
That fuels the fire, right?
Well, you hated to lose, and you
Right.
did your best, and so. But everybody else out there was doing the same thing, so
Yeah.
you always hoped you came out on top.
Yeah. And in track, if I remember right, you high jumped.
Uh-huh.
I think you did triple jump.
I did.
Long jump.
Yes.
And what was the fourth event? I know you had to be in 4.
Well, I wished I'd have had a fourth event, because Buzzy Sullivan, who knew me, he got me to run a leg on the mile relay one time. And I had never run around the track, because I played baseball and ran track. And I was in the stands clowning around, like, just having fun.
Yeah.
And he said, "Get ready, you're running a leg on the mile relay." And I said, "Coach, I haven't even run around the track." He said, "I didn't ask you that." He said, "Get ready, you're running a leg on the mile relay."
Yeah.
So after that race, I promised myself I'd never do it again.
The 440, the mile relay, or that one lap, is the hardest race. You're sprinting.
Yes.
You're
Well, I
sprinting.
didn't know how to run the race.
Yeah.
And there was a guy that was about 5 yards in front of me, and I basically just chased him around the track.
Yeah.
My time was not great. I think I ran a 54 quarter. But when I handed off the baton to the next guy, I was right even with that guy. So I thought maybe I did what I was supposed to do.
Yeah, just don't get too far behind. That's all they
right.
want the first leg to do. But y'all had some good track guys. Were you there when Aubrey Lagarde and all
Aubrey
that?
was on that relay team.
Okay.
Hilton Joseph and Bill Lake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits and Downer Law Firm. This one-on-one program has been brought to you by the law offices of Waits and Downer.